Welcome to the Patriots Report, part of the Believe Network presented by FanDuel. My name is Christopher Price, the Boston Globe and bostonglobe.com, coming to you in the wake of New England's dramatic 23-20 win over the Buffalo Bills at Highmark Stadium. When I think back on this game years from now, the thing that I will think of, the thing that will come to mind first and foremost, is standing on the ramp outside of the visitors' locker room. Mike Vrabel was the first guy to get to the locker room, and he stood there and waited for each one of the guys on the roster to come up the ramp, and they were all coming up the ramp. They were happy, they were upbeat, they were cheerful, and Vrabel met them all with a hug, with a high five, with a good word, because this was that kind of game. This was the kind of game that we're going to look back on years from now and remember this as one of the major turning points in the history of this franchise. The Patriots are not going to be back. The Patriots are not back as we sit here right now. They're not going to the playoffs this year. At least I don't think they're going to the playoffs this year. But I think when you look at this team right now, we need to refocus the level of expectation around the 2025 Patriots. We really thought that this team was capable of winning 7, 8, 9 games, but you look at what they are right now. You look at where they are in their overall development. The fact that they can come into Buffalo and steal a win from the Bills, a team with legitimate Super Bowl aspirations, a team that was 4-0 coming into this evening's game. And the Patriots, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. They struggled, and it looked for all the world there in the second half like they were going to give this thing away. But Drake May, Steph Diggs, and Andy Borregales, there are many other heroes in this game tonight. But those are the first three, for me, really, in a lot of ways that come to mind. The Patriots, I always think back on this. This was Mike Vrabel's first and most important commandment when he first took the job back in January. It's we just want to be good enough to take advantage of bad football. And for great stretches throughout the first half, the Patriots weren't good enough to take advantage of bad football because Buffalo was giving them this thing. Buffalo committed 8 penalties in the first half. They turned the ball over twice. They haven't done that in a game in 10 years. And still, the Patriots could only take a 6-3 lead. And look, points are great. You never look down on the idea of scoring points, but there were some missed opportunities by this New England team in the early going that I thought were going to come back to haunt them. But they were able to pull it together down the stretch, and Andy Borregales hit his third field goal of the night, a 52-yarder with 15 seconds left that turned out to be the difference. New England wins 23-20. Now, let's get to a few of the particulars in this game. Let's start with Stefon Diggs in his return to Highmark Stadium. Stefon Diggs was clearly the biggest name, the most compelling storyline coming into this thing. Based on the way things ended with Buffalo, he said all the right things. And look, Buffalo said all the right things coming into this game, but there was a little extra juice there when you considered his history with that franchise, with Josh Allen, with Sean McDermott. And so to see him come into a game of this magnitude, 10 catches on 12 targets, 146 yards, no touchdowns, but it was his second straight 100-yard game. Now he has put together back-to-back 100-yard games for the Patriots. The first time in his career he's done that since 2023. I don't know if he's all the way back yet, but I can't remember the last time the Patriots had a wide receiver go for 100 yards in back-to-back games. And so we start from there. We start when you talk about this game, you think about Diggs. You're going to remember Diggs and his performance. He got a game ball in the post-game scrum from Mike Vrabel. Vrabel, like I said, hugged all the guys coming up the runway, coming up the ramp after the game. He gave Diggs one of the longest hugs, and Diggs responded with just a cheer. It can only be described as a cheer, really, at the top of his lungs. 10 catches, 12 targets, 146 yards. These are games. These are reasons. Games like this are reasons why you go get elite-level talent. Steph Diggs doing his thing, prime time, Highmark Stadium, making a statement as to where he is at this stage of his career. And look, I don't think the 31-year-old is going to make the Pro Bowl this year, but he's on pace now for another 100-yard or for another 1,000-yard season. And given what he went through over the course of the last 12 months, it has to feel good for him. And you have to feel good for him because he was probably at the end of his rope at this time last year. Wide receiver over 30, ACL injury. It's bad news all around. But he's been able to rebound, and now for the second straight game, over 100 yards. Second straight game, team leader in receiving yards. The Patriots have found themselves a number one wide receiver, and his name is Steph Diggs. Drake made 22 for 30, 273 yards, sacked 4 times, no touchdown passes, no interceptions. Let me say that again, no touchdown passes and no interceptions. But this is the Drake May game. This is the game that we are all going to point to when we speculate as to when it all turned for him. And look, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be a straight line in one direction for this kid moving forward. But for what he did tonight, again, on the national stage, going toe-to-toe with Josh Allen, it's a great start. It represents a foundational game for him. It represents the kind of signature game that he's needed to mark the beginning of his professional career. He was 9 for 16 at halftime for 89 yards. Now, he wasn't the reason why they only led 6-3, but to be able to put that sort of press on in the second half is very, very impressive. Missed one pass in the second half. One pass. He's 9 for 16 at halftime, 7 incompletes, 22 for 30, finishes with 8 incompletes. Best in the big moments. That is the thing that you have to remember with him. And then Andy Borregales. We're doing the stuff that we like and the stuff that we don't like. Andy Borregales, I remain very impressed by the kid. I do. It's a 30-yarder and a 19-yarder right before halftime. Gets the Patriots on the board. The only scoring for the Patriots in the first half came from the rookie out of Miami. Those 2 field goals. And then he gets the 52-yarder at the end of the game. Gets a big hug from Vrabel. Vrabel gave everyone a big hug. He gave the kicker a big hug. Looked like his eyes were about to pop out of his head when Vrabel got a hold of him. So this is a special teams unit that has been a difference maker. And we know, we've talked about this before, for so many years, the Patriots won games on the margins. They won games because of special teams. They won games because of an important kick or an important kickoff, important punt return. We've already seen that over the course of the year, this year, 5 games in. And tonight, Andy Borregales accounts for 9 points, including the game winner, a 52-yarder. He's now, by my count, he's now 2 for 2, fourth quarters, 50-plus yard kicks. He actually had a really good weekend when you consider Miami winning, beating Florida State, and then 9 field goals here. He was clean on all of his extra point attempts as well. So there's a lot to like in this game. There really is. Like I said, Borregales, Drake May, Steph Diggs, start with that. Milton Williams had a sack. I talked to him in the locker room after the game. He said, look, I didn't play my best, but at the same time, it's a lot nicer to come out of here with an ugly win as opposed to a pretty loss. Paraphrasing Steph Diggs, one of Steph Diggs' favorite quotes. The other thing, too, and I talked about this with my colleague Alex Barth the other day, and he was actually the one who brought it up, so I'll give him credit for this, that Milton Williams goes out and signs a $100 million contract. $100 million contract. And I haven't heard one person say that he hasn't been worth every penny of that contract through the first 5 games of the regular season. He's a difference maker. He is one of the 2 most important defensive players that this team has. He and Christian Gonzalez. I'll put those 2 guys in the mix. And they've gotten some good performances out of some other guys to this point in the season. But those are the 2 guys for me, by and large, who continue to separate the Patriots from the rest of the pack, at least right now. And look, I'll be completely honest with you. There are still plenty of questions with this team moving forward. They need a coverage linebacker. They continue to get killed by really good tight ends. We said this after the opener. Brock Bowers went crazy. Dalton Kincaid had a big night tonight. Dalton Kincaid finished with 6 catches for 108 yards. If you are a team with an elite tight end, you are going to be able to make some gains against the Patriots. And look, not everyone's going to have a Brock Bowers or Dalton Kincaid, but that's the next step in, I think, the evolutionary process for this defense. They need to be able to find a guy. They need to be able to find a coverage linebacker. And with the trade deadline now about a month or so away, maybe that happens. Maybe the Patriots go out and find a coverage linebacker. And I think that they might be in a situation where they hope that Marte Mapu can be that guy, can eventually evolve into that guy, can become that coverage linebacker that they need. And maybe when you have that guy in the field, he kind of gives up a little bit in the run game. But look, you need to be able to find that guy. The other thing, too, that they need to find an answer to is the fumbling issues, the ball security issues. We saw it tonight with Ramondre Stevenson. He gave away the ball in the first quarter. And we're getting to a point now with that. It's his third fumble this year. We're getting to a point where I want to say it's almost a given because I like Ramondre. I think he's a good guy, but it needs to be addressed. Now, it's going to be dicey trying to address that moving forward because the Patriots are going to be, at least in my opinion, going to be without Antonio Gibson for at least a week or two. He suffered a knee injury tonight. He was on crutches during the postgame. He was at the locker room door alongside Mike Vrabel, which was a good sign. But I think that given the way he looked, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up missing at least a week or two. So now you have a running back in Ramondre Stevenson that has ball security issues, who bounced back, by the way, tonight. Did a very good job bouncing back. Had a pair of rushing touchdowns. So let's say that in defense of Ramondre Stevenson. He does have ball security issues, but he finished with 7 carries for 14 yards and a pair of touchdowns. And so you take the good, you take the bad, you know? So you don't have Antonio Gibson for a while. You have another running back in Ramondre Stevenson who has ball security problems. Is this going to be Trevion Henderson's deal moving forward? That's the question that I have. Is he going to be the guy who they're going to have to rely on the ground game to produce? He had 6 carries tonight for 24 yards, and he had 2 catches for 3 yards. Not overwhelming numbers. I wonder if he's going to move into the lead role, at least for the time being. I also wonder if Terrell Jennings, who's on the practice squad, is going to get called up. They need to do something to create a little depth there, particularly if Antonio Gibson is going to be on the shelf for an extended period of time. So they need to make some adjustments. They need to make some fixes here while they have an opportunity. Because, look, over the next 6 weeks, there's an old phrase that my mom used to use. It's called, you got to make hay while the sun shines. Well, if you're the Patriots, the sun is going to be shining over the next 6 weeks because you face 6 teams with a combined record of 9-20. Now, the best team in that group is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they are 4-1, I believe, if memory serves. You're going into a stretch. Next week, it's New Orleans. And I said it before, I'll say it again. If you're a serious team, you go to New Orleans and kick the shit out of the Saints. And so that should move you to, and I'm taking notes here as I'm doing this, that should move you to 4-2. You have games against Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Tennessee, and the New York Jets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 games. No, and then New Orleans. That's right. So you have New Orleans, and this is not in any particular order here, but New Orleans, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Tennessee, and the New York Jets. Patriots are 3-2 in this moment. So let's assume that you're going to lose one of those games. Because I think the Patriots are on an upward trend. I think they're pointing in the right direction. I think they're doing all the right things, but I understand the any given Sunday aspect of this league, and you're going to run into a team that's just going to luck into one. We see it every year. You know, we've seen it over the first 5 weeks of the season here. So let's say the Patriots lose one of those games. They're 3-2 right now. Let's say they go to 3-3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you win 5 of those games. You win 5 of the 6. You're looking at a team that is over 500 at the midway point in the season. You're 3-2 right now. You're going to lose one of those games. That's going to take you to 3-3. At worst, you're 8-3. Let's even give them another. Let's say 7-4. Now I understand you can't go down the roster. You can't go down the schedule and go win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. That's not productive because it's just not realistic. But you can look at these teams, and you can start to see something begin to develop for the Patriots. If you're the 2025 Patriots, the level of expectation on this team is moving. And now I think that it's fair to start demanding more from this team based on what we saw tonight. The Bills don't lose at home. That's the thing for me. The Bills don't lose. The Bills, this is not a common thing. And to be able to see the New England Patriots come into Highmark Stadium tonight and really display a sense of mental toughness, mental and physical toughness, because that was a tough game to get through. Antonio Gibson got hurt. Carlton Davis got hurt. You had guys really banged up, and you had them come together and you had them play well. And you made plays down the stretch. You took advantage of some bad football. You did everything you needed to do. The Patriots just in the games that have mattered. I'm going to throw out the Joe Milton game from last year. The games that have mattered, the Patriots have played well. And now you can sit here and say, well, they should win these games. Even if you lose to Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Tennessee, the Jets, Atlanta, New Orleans, those are all winnable games for you. They are. They're all winnable games. And that's what leads me to believe that we can really start to change our line of thinking about this team right now. And that's good and bad because, like I say, the expectation level increases. There are things that, you're not going to forgive them for a road loss to New Orleans, like maybe you would have at the start of the year. Jets look awful. Tennessee got a win today. Cleveland, Tampa Bay is the best of that bunch. Tampa Bay might be one of the 5 best teams in the NFL right now. But if you can go down to Tampa Bay and you can be competitive with Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, you feel pretty good. You feel even better now. You feel even better then than you would. New Orleans, Atlanta. That's what's up for this team. New Orleans is next week, and the Saints have been a miserable team. And so that should be a win for the Patriots. But biggest takeaways tonight, once again, the Patriots go on the road. They beat the Buffalo Bills 23-20 at Highmark Stadium, likely their last trip to Highmark Stadium, barring a playoff appearance. So they closed out Highmark Stadium in style, at least from their standpoint. They go on the road. They pick up a big victory. They move to 3-2 on the season. They win back-to-back games for the first time in 3 years. They're over 500, 5 games into the season. They are ahead of where we thought they might be at this time of year. I think really, for me, that's the biggest takeaway at the end of the day. They are ahead of where we thought they might be in their overall development. So we're going to podcast. Probably Hogan and I are probably going to get after it on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, where we kind of look back at this one a little bit. I know I was texting with him tonight. I know he has a lot of opinions about this game, and he can't wait to share them with you guys. So we're going to pod with this week, me and Hogan. I'm going to hopefully get a friend of mine who covers the New Orleans Saints, and we're going to talk a little Patriots Saints as well. In the meantime, make sure you check out all my coverage in the Boston Globe and bostonglobe.com. I have a story coming up on Monday morning at 5 a.m. that looks at why we should change the level of expectation for this team. And it has some really good quotes from inside the locker room, so you might want to check that out. Like I said, in the meantime, make sure to check out my coverage at Boston Globe and bostonglobe.com. Be sure to follow the Believe Network and take care, and we will talk to you guys again very, very soon.